T-minus 80 seconds. T-minus 70 seconds. T-minus 60 seconds. T-minus 50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Last Movie Outpost, the Sunday roast live stream. The Outpost frequencies. I've forgotten completely what the name is of this thing. We keep changing it.
You keep changing it. I was never consulted.
Well, that's what happens when you skip the board meetings.
Yeah,
the board meetings that we had that we didn't tell you about. Hello, Yoda. How are you today?
better. Yesterday was kind of a... It's like, oh no, it won't come back up. The site won't come back up.
Oh, well, speaking of which, let's start off with our first topic then, of technical difficulties, which I put in there just to cover the elephant in the room. Yes, what happened yesterday?
Well, what happened was...
You left, is what happened.
I
you
left.
Went out for the
yes.
day.
The IT gods saw my transgression and smited me. So,
yes, we were down for just a little while, unfortunately, but we are all back up and running now.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too into the technical weeds here, but basically a SQL database has a transaction log that is constantly there. The transaction log database got corrupted. Delete the transaction log, start up the SQL database server, all was good. So I didn't. Once I figured it out, got to the logs and figured it out, it only took me maybe about a half hour or less to fix it. And now that I know what to look for, it'll take even less time. But when you're out at your stepson's college graduation,
and you're just getting pings on your phone going, Yoda, website's not working. Mm-hmm. Oh, dear. So, yes, we apologise for the technical difficulties we've been having on the website. Like I say, it won't happen again because we'll make sure Yoda never leaves the house.
Yeah, I'd like to say it won't happen again, but I guarantee it will happen again because this is just our little server out there in the wilderness, and we just do the best we can with what we got. So,
and we won't feed the hamster that runs the wheel to run it. So that's because we're not getting enough people liking and subscribing and giving us super chats.
Yeah. Just tell everybody and your friends and their friends and their grandma that the site is out there. Let's crank up the views and let's get some.
We are very grandma friendly, just to get that out there. So it's just myself and Yoda at the moment. Matt might be joining us later, but it is a bank holiday weekend. The king has just been coronated, and I'd say a good 2/3 of the country are drunk, including Matt. So.
And the king, I bet.
Yeah. So he may not join us. And Sean is, I think actually we should tell people where Sean has been. He has been on an anger management course. It's actually the second one that he's been on, because the first one he beat up one of the teachers. But no, Sean will be back with us soon. But like I say, he is just MIA at the moment.
He's quite sick of all the Star Wars talk and the superhero talk. And guess what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy's out, so we're like whores. So all we're going to do is just talk about stuff that's going to get us the algorithm sorted.
That's correct.
And good morning to you, Selec. Nice to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. Okie doke. So after our technical difficulties, I've got a few things set up. Have you been through the list?
I know. I just got on. I was running a little late, so let me look at what you got here. But
but basically, first of all, I've got to talk about this because Chicken Run 2. Now, Chicken Run is one of those films that's very close to my heart, purely because it's done by Aardman Animation, which is literally based up the road from me, no more than an hour's car drive. But the first one was a great movie, a complete spoof of The Great Escape, and really, really did very well. The second one is coming out. Are you interested, or is not your cup of tea, or?
Well, I noticed they didn't get Mel Gibson on there, so I guess we're not going to see Rocky screaming about Jews. So I'm disappointed about that.
It just took the edge off, didn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, everybody's there except for the top. I guess the main antagonist, I forget her name, the chicken that really wanted to get out more than anybody. Her voice is being changed out. Some other actors playing her too, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm just looking through it, and yeah, it is weird because again, I thought to myself, it's a shame because it was originally by a girl called Julia Sawala, who I grew up with a major crush on, and she did a really good job. But yeah, they have swapped her out. So to Thandie Newton, which is a good choice because she's very good. But it's just kind of, if that was the case, I wonder how much of the story they had. Maybe they could have just swapped the main characters out. Like, so what was her main character was called? Ginger, I want to say. No, it wasn't Ginger. Yeah, it was Ginger. No. But yeah, Ginger and Rocky could have left. So long. They could have left and had just a new main protagonist come in.
Yeah, I mean, Aardman always makes kind of fun stuff. I nobody seems to like it, but I really liked Flushed Away. I don't know why people don't seem to enjoy that movie, but I thought it was good fun. I mean, not one of their best, but I thought perfectly acceptable. Yeah, absolutely. It had some pretty funny moments in there. The singing slugs and I like all the frogs. As they say, let's show them our best move, and all the frogs go, "We surrender." So that, it had its moments, and Wallace and Gromit, of course. Come on, Gromit, we need some cheese.
Wallace and Gromit over here is an institution. It's kind of one of those things. They do like a new one for Christmas, and it's part of the Christmas tradition to sit down and watch a Wallace and Gromit film. And they are always, it's the little humour that's in there. My favourite line is in Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And there's an actor over here called Peter Kay, who I know Eggy doesn't like, but I think he's brilliant. But he plays a policeman, and with all these vegetables going missing, this policeman goes, "This is a case of arson." And so he goes, "Arson, eh?" And he goes, "Yeah, somebody's been arson around." And like you say, you get this little sort of humour in there, which is just extremely funny.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I like about the Aardman, it's like it's not childish, it's not dumb. Yeah. But it's not
directly.
Crass.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It's never. It's always. It's sweet. It's nice, yes, but it's not stupid or childish. It's just they could all be rated G, and that doesn't mean adults couldn't enjoy them because they're good humor and they're nice, and it doesn't always have to be swearing potty mouths like myself.
But also, I mean, they just are well-told stories and great little characters that you can get fully invested in. They're great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, they're popular here too. They had Wallace and Gromit TV show, I think, back in the '90s or something, like a Saturday morning type thing. I know there was one that ran for a while here in the States. The Aardman stuff got popular here too. So I mean, it's not just you guys.
Oh, fair enough. Just to say, sorry about that, Setlick. Just to read that unfortunately his son passed away. But obviously that's a good reason not to be here. But like I say, just obviously sorry to hear that.
Oh man, that's awful.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, everybody, let's give warm thoughts to Setlick, because I'm not sure what else. Unfortunately, when there's not much else you can do, there's nothing I can say that would be not sound trite. And
no, it is just one of those things that time heals. I mean, obviously it's a completely different situation, but I know I lost my dad an awfully long time ago, and it gets better with time. The pain is still there, but it gets better with time. Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, with my dad, it's funny how you even forget the bad stuff. You just remember the good stuff.
Yeah. But yes, Chicken Run 2, I'm quite happy about. I'm quite pleased about. And I although Aardman has had a minor slip, which we will come on to later, again, like I say, anything that Aardman does, I'm quite happy to sit down and give it a good go.
I agree.
So, this one we are going to disagree on just a little bit. Because, now, I liked Tron Legacy. I'm actually going to say erring on the side of loved Tron Legacy. I think it's a solid movie. It's a well done story. The soundtrack, the special effects. I mean, okay, the main guy, Garrett Hedlund, I think he's called, was a bit of a charismatic vacuum, but I still really, really rate the movie and I really like it. But you're not so keen, were you?
Well, it's been a while since I saw it, but I remember when I saw it just being like, I know everybody loves the Daft Punk score. Correct. That's awesome. It's a great score. I would listen to it. I was pumped to see this. And when I actually saw the movie, I was just like, this is just, I mean, like, okay, the arcade, it just felt like everything just was set up weird. Like, if the guy is, releasing OS on the internet for free by base jumping, I'm like, that doesn't really work. You can leak it on the internet. People leak Windows all over the internet. That doesn't mean that it's free. And it doesn't mean that there isn't shit in there to make it tough to just, put, if you want to put pirated copies of Windows, that's fine. But then there's all the patches and updates and everything that comes with it. There's the license, the activation. There's ways to, protect your property. So, I mean, he's like, well, he released it on the internet. And the guy's like, well, I guess that's it. We're screwed. I was like, that's not how that works. And it just kept having those kinds of moments or just plot weirdness. Did it look great? Yeah, it looked great. Did the music and the ambiance look great? Yeah. And this is where I feel slightly hypocritical because I absolutely adore the original Tron. And the original Tron has just as much bullshit in it as Legacy did. But for whatever, maybe because that it's got to be nostalgia. It's got to be just pure nostalgia. I'm forgiving of the original Tron.
It is weird, though, the way you say that, because I can't remember what I was watching, but I was watching something the other day that I hadn't seen for a long time. And I was being less forgiving, whether it's because I'm now a movie critique, but just because I examine movies a lot more than what I used to as a kid, that we have become harsher with our reviews of them. And so, like I say, with Tron Legacy, I was quite open-minded towards it. And like I say, I've seen it a few times and I still quite happily rate it. And so I'm willing to forgive the suspension of disbelief, whereas in other films, even if they are sci-fi or fantasy, whatever, you kind of go, no, that didn't happen. None of that happened, Yeah,
I think it's funny. It's like there is I've heard people say there's recency bias, like because you just saw it, it's fresh in your mind, and you kind of, are happy about it. But I think there's also with these sequels that come so much later, or even if it's a sequel that's not that much longer, but they change enough stuff that you have kind of the inverse of that, where you tend to like, if it doesn't feel like the thing, then you don't like it as much. And I don't know, I mean, as slick and as good as Tron looked, it didn't look like Tron to me. And I understand why. They made it in 1982. There was things they couldn't do in 82 that they probably would have if they had made it in 2010 or even 2005 or something. So but there's I feel like I have kind of the inverse of that. It's like, well, that's not my Tron. It's not my dad. It's these are the kids' Tron. The kids need to get off my lawn, Tron. That's what they gotta do. And so I don't know if there's a little part of that, but and I'd have to rewatch it again because it's been 12 years now, 13 years now. But I just remember there was just so many things that I was just like, what are they talking about? Like, they brought her into the real world. I like, what? That's a thing you can do now?
It is one, like you say, there are moments in there where they've simply answered the question with somehow. That it's just, how did that happen? Somehow, and all. But overall, like I say, weirdly, bringing her into the real world was kind of like the biggest problem I had with it.
WTF? Yeah.
But the rest of it, I was quite happy and willing of suspension of disbelief just to sort of believe in the rest of it and everything else. And like I say, I still like it. It does look like, just to mention, it is just a rumour at the moment, but Cillian Murphy, who plays Dillinger's son in the original, Dillinger from the original movie, his son is working for the same corporation, Encom. Yeah. And it looks like Cillian Murphy will be back as Dillinger's son as the main protagonist, or antagonist, I should say. Which, again, it's weird because he's only in the Tron Legacy for literally 5 minutes. He's not even credited.
Well, his character should have been named Sequel Bait. That's what he was, and that was clear. That's what he was, and that kind of
But then they kind of. I'm assuming filming schedules got in the way, and he just obviously couldn't complete the rest of the movie, so they had to just sort of do a. Hang on a minute, Cillian Murphy's working. Is there anybody else we could get as the main antagonist? We could double up on Jeff Bridges. Oh yeah, good idea. We don't have to pay him twice then.
No, and we ended up getting only 1.5 Jeff Bridges because that technology back then was not working.
It was. There were places where it was good, but there was places where it didn't work at all.
No. That's one of those things that doesn't bother me. I know people were really kind of like, oh, it looks so bad. I'm like going, yeah, it looks bad. It was 2010. They just really were getting into this de-aging deep fake technology. Yeah. Cut them a break. That was the least of the problems of the movie for me. I think what I didn't like about the movie is that it got so weirdly metaphysical. What they call these programs? The girl, she was like an ER. I don't know.
ISOs. I think it was
ISOs, which is, to me, that's like, oh, it's an image of a CD file. Okay. I feel like that's, but that it didn't mean that. It was some. Bullshit.
Are you saying I could download? What's her name? Olivia Wilde, like in the size of an ISO file?
Apparently. Only 670 megabytes.
Just
yeah. You can put that on a thumb drive. But that's just it. I mean, it was like they threw in language like that didn't mean, like, I feel like somebody out there says ISO, that's a thing that computer people use. And then they came up with an acronym on it that didn't mean anything. ISO is International Standards Organization, actually. I mean, it's really dumb.
Things it could be. I wonder if there was a specific thing in Tron Legacy that she was supposed to be. I have no idea.
I don't know, but they got into some weird metaphysical stuff, and I just was I liked the original that kind of was like trying to attempt to take things in the primitive, rudimentary way we had computers back then and say, okay, it's these are programs and they have users, right? And they have to get to the I/O port so they can communicate with the users. Well. Oh, that was technically correct. I mean, they weren't that far off a lot of this kind of stuff. And it was much simpler time back then. But then when they tried to, it felt like they just took computer terms that they've heard and made them something for some mystical quests that they went on or something. I was like, oh, this isn't, what are you doing here? I don't get it.
You expected one of the main characters to be called Mouse and Keyboard.
That would have made more sense, actually, but I mean, they did have a thing called Cursor, if I remember right, or Bit.
Oh yeah,
that was Bit.
That's right. Yeah,
it was Bit.
It was yes and no, wasn't it? No,
yeah, it was yes, no.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Binary or a Bit.
Yeah.
Cursor was Automan. That's a deep cut.
Yes. No, I remember Automan. I on the one hand, I would quite happily give Tron a go, depending on who they get to direct and so forth. However, now that Daft Punk is broken up, they're going to have to fill some shoes somehow. And, because, a good chunk of what I love about Tron Legacy is that music, because it's fantastic. And so, I don't know, like I say, I'm kind of looking forward to it, depending on what they do with the story. I remain optimistic.
Have to get Danny Elfman.
Oh, no. Now we're going to have to finish this thing with Danny Elfman.
go, get on the. They're on the light cycles. I hear is dude. The hell.
On to Cliffhanger. It's kind of one of those underrated Stallone movies that people, you've either seen it or you haven't. I think probably most people have. When this news came up, I watched Cliffhanger again, and I was supposed to do a review, and I've completely forgot, so I will get around to that. It's one of those films that's a classic 80s movie. None of it makes any sense. There's plot holes the size of Stallone's biceps in it. But it's a solid piece of entertainment. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing from beginning to end. A reboot is going to be starring Stallone, so it's going to be a soft reboot. Is it needed?
Well, no, it's never needed. But a lot of people forget that after Die Hard came out, right? Then it was just Die Hard movie after Die Hard movie, right?
Yeah.
Die Hard 2 was Die Hard in an airport. And Speed was Die Hard in a bus. It was also Die Hard in an elevator and Die Hard on a subway. And there was Under Siege, which was Die Hard on a battleship. And then there was this, which was Die Hard on a mountain. And, it was just one of many various Die Hard clones that came out. And, yeah, some of them were halfway decent.
I will say it's directed by a guy called Reddy Harland, who is one of those people that's very much a blockbuster, sort of summer blockbuster guy. That he makes
Until
a film.
Cutthroat Island came out, and that was the end of him.
No, what I mean is that he makes those kind of like big budget action movies that the story is kind of cobbled together, but they're entertainment. Like Steve Summers, who does like Van Helsing and stuff like that.
He did Die Hard too.
Oh, he did, didn't he? Yeah, of course he did. Yeah. But again, he makes these kind of films. With it, one thing that really did impress me was, obviously this was way before the days of CGI. A lot of the action actually looked like Stallone climbing up a cliff. And the way it was photographed, I was very impressed in looking at it and thinking, goodness me, how did they do that? Because that really looks real. And so that was very impressive. And I did think on a reboot, it's going to be a shame because it's all going to just be CG and it's not going to feel like anybody's ever in danger. Because if they fall, they're just going to be falling onto a green mat, whereas in this film, a couple of times I thought, if Stallone did actually lose his footing, he might actually die. Sorry, we lost Stallone on that one. Yeah, lost his footing. Bring in his replacement. Again, it's kind of one of those films, just to get that in there, so like he's just saying Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It is a Christmas movie. It's the greatest Christmas movie of all time.
Christmas Vacation was Die Hard in the suburbs. I forgot about that.
But yeah, again, doing a reboot of a film that just doesn't need it. Again, it's kind of one of those things where obviously some executive somewhere is like, if you don't have a movie for me in the morning, you're fired. Okay, sir, gone through his DVD collection and sort of, oh, nobody's done Cliffhanger for a while. I've got one, sir. And that's kind of it.
Is Stallone going to be in it? Is it a reboot or is it a belated sequel? Or
no? Apparently he is back playing the main character who was called Gabe. He was called Gabe in it. Apparently he is back as Gabe. to whether he's handing the baton to somebody else or whatever it might be. So I don't think it's a reboot. I think the technical term now is a soft reboot, like they did with Scream, because with Scream they kind of passed it on from Sydney now to this new whoever character it is. So yeah, it's a soft reboot.
It's probably just him, just big long beard. He's still looking for the effing money up there.
Well, no, you see, that was one of the things that made me laugh, isn't it? Is in the film itself, there's obviously 3 cases full of money, and these bad guys. Look at John Lithgow plays a great bad guy in it, but there's twice where Stallone literally sort of goes, "Oh, there it is." finds his money. You are thinking, seriously, how did he find that? And he just seems to like find it before the bad guys, who have got an electronic tracker as well, by the way.
Yeah,
it's
like, it's right over there. What do you need me for? You got a fucking helicopter? Just go.
The other thing that annoyed me, and I've got to say this, was there's a scene in it where there's a rope bridge between 2 gullies, and they all get across, but then John Lithgow sets a bomb on one of the other ends. And Stallone and I forget her name walked across it, triggered the bomb, ran back and got it. Now, I distinctly remember Stallone tying a rope to himself, running and jumping to the other side of the cliff, right? Because it was utterly ludicrous. And I was watching the film and it got to the end and I thought, he didn't do that jump. What's wrong with that? And I looked it up and it's in the trailer, but not in the film.
Oh, really? One of those.
Really annoyed me.
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking, he hasn't done that jump thing yet. Where's that then? Like I say, on the trailer on the IMDb, it shows him doing it, and it's like, yeah, that's a bit naughty because that didn't take place then.
Don't watch the Rogue One trailer though. You're gonna be really disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
half of that trailer went in the movie.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. So. Moving on to, now I must admit, I've kind of been keeping up with this, but at the same time, not fully. But there's a writer's strike going on. The main problem that writers have, and I've got to try and say this with a straight face, is they are worried about the whole GTP thing, whatever it is, of artificial intelligence writing stories. Now, what I have read about this is somebody made the comment on Twitter, and they said that ChatGTP can only regurgitate old ideas and present them as their own. And I thought, so the Disney writers aren't on strike then? Because obviously, on the one hand, I appreciate the creativity that goes into writing, and computer intelligence at the moment can't come up with new ideas. It does sort of, scan from old ideas. So I see where the writers are angry, but I don't know whether the companies are trying to screw the writers out of money if a lot of the work is done by the ChatGTP. Have you kept up with this at all?
Well, I guess I thought that they were going on strike because of streaming revenue, and
Okay, it might
I
be.
thought
to
that
do
was a
with
big part of it. Well, I guess I should have researched. But why are the writers on strike? Thank God there's this.
If you keep talking and stop drawing attention to it, I can read it and give the information. I'll get it from scanning. Oh, the casuals
I mean, besides being a bunch of insufferable, complaining, whining crybabies. I mean, besides that, budgets have increased, seriously increased, and the writers' share of the money has consistently shrunk. I gotta say, they probably got a point, because all the stories suck. I mean, I'm looking at you, Star Trek, everything.
Again, this is what gets me. It's kind of how Disney have just fired 7,000 people because they've been hemorrhaging money so badly. Because they have been churning out utter garbage, they've been losing money, and so they're now blaming the writers. And it is kind of right, that I agree with, because it is the writers' fault. But who hired them all in the first place? It's the same as the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing. Ultimately, if you fired her, you would be getting rid of a huge problem right away.
Well, this is why I don't like unions. Just pay me and we'll negotiate me. right? For whatever
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But like they make these contracts whenever they make them. I think the last writer's strike was back in 2008. So,
Yeah.
and then before that, I don't know, it's a long time ago. But even the one in 2008 probably just restructured some of the contract from the earlier one. And so, okay, that's great when everybody's doing a seasonal calendar and you have shows starting in September and ending in May, and then there's a very specific way that things come out on home video. 2008, there was no such thing as a streaming service.
No.
Now, everybody watches anything whenever the hell they want. And when they release shows, well, I guess we'll release Picard in February and it'll get done in March or April.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's the calendar? And then everybody watches it afterwards as much as they want, or they binge it. So you look at this contract, it doesn't, follow any of that, or it doesn't have any of that. Now, you take on top of that the Disney, all the studios are putting all their money into technical stuff, CG and all that, not doing a great job of it in some cases. But the point
last
is,
week's stream for that. Sorry.
yeah, no kidding. But the point is that they have devalued scripting and story, and it's really a shame. And I want to kind of dovetail into this. I've been rewatching Star Trek Voyager, which I am finding is not nearly as bottom tier as I thought it was. It has some bad episodes in it, but for the most part, the story structure, the characterizations, the pacing, everything is done really well. Even on the crap episodes, at least I'm following it and I have some sort of investment sometimes. And I feel like there's a good structure and all the basics are there so that you are at least invested in the story. And one of the guys that seemed to write on this show a number of episodes, and many of them are very, very good, is Brian Fuller. Now, I bring him up because when Eggy and I had one of our original Why is Star Trek So Bad? We know it's bad, but why? That's the title. I went through and I looked at all these writers that are working on the new stuff. Brian Fuller is one of them. And I made a mention. I was looking to see if he was woke and that kind of stuff. I didn't go in depth enough on what he had done before. I said he worked on a little Star Trek before. I didn't realize how much Voyager he actually did. The man knows how to write. So what changed? Why is Discovery such shit now when he's writing on that as well? Now, I know he's not working in a vacuum, but my point is he must have enough seniority and enough pull, given his lengthy resume, to make better TV than this. And so is it because of this cult woke nonsense? Is it because they're not paying these guys what they're worth anymore, and they're putting them on such crap schedules that they can't get this stuff worth the quality? Is it a combination of all these things? I mean, it's, I just started pulling apart the strings and unpacking some of this as I started looking into it. And I'm like, well, why is these writers that have worked for so long making such garbage now?
It is interesting. Setlick has just said there, fire all the woke writers and pay based on success. The woke failures will naturally get a lower play scale. And
unions work against merit pay. They're specifically designed to destroy the idea of merit pay.
It's such a shame though, because ultimately, like I say, if you make a hit film, like for example, it's just a sort of stupid example, but I mean, with Star Wars, Lucas said, "I'll take 1% of the gross." Because of that, he is now a billionaire. Okay, if Star Wars had failed, he'd have made nothing. And that kind of, for me, that kind of works. If you make something,
and he says, and I'll keep all the merchandising rights, which is really what made him a billionaire. But go ahead.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, though. Is it still a case of that? The whole thing was a success, and so because of that, he made money off it. And so when shows are terrible and badly written and don't get viewing figures, they should ultimately, that's not the problem with the CG guys, it's not the problem with the actors, anything else, it's down to the writers. And so they should say, right, that show was actually a failure, so we're only going to pay you X amount because we didn't make any money on it. But that's one of those things that just, obviously is not going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you could write forever, and it just, when are you going to actually get somebody to take a chance on your work to make a show? And then once you get into a writer's room, that your stuff won't be, torn apart and bastardized by various other writers, the director, the producers, the suits, everything else. I mean, there's probably one horror story after another. I've seen it where a guy writes a script, and by the time it gets through the machine, the movie that comes out, it's like, well, I think the character's name is the same, or it sounds the same. They even spelled it differently. I mean, it's like, it's that bad.
But then conversely, my argument with that, the corporations have got such a hold over what gets made that independent cinema, I'm going to say companies like, say, A24, who are, becoming a major player now, but A24 are an independent company that they take a chance on people. That Marcel with Shell with Shoes On, that was, a very popular, it's a viral video and everything else. And so they made it. And I know they're doing another one called The Yellow Room, I think it is, of a guy who's just made some stuff at home, which has been really popular on YouTube, but they're taking a chance on him. But when it comes to places like Disney, they won't do that. They will just stick within their own little bubble and try and create their own thing.
Yeah, I missed it. There's nobody taking chances on movies that people, general audiences will respond to. Yeah. And I don't mean, like, A24, I love them, but the closest they've made that really get people responding to it was probably Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything else they make is so up its own ass. I mean, they make shit like Lamb.
Not everything. I will grant you some of it, but not everything. Because, I mean, again, some of those movies have just been fantastic.
I'm going to say that most of them have been fantastic. Even though, the Hereditary and some of these others, they strike a chord. There's a lot of good stuff in them. But they're not exactly, fun for the whole family either. And they used to take chances on things like that ended up becoming hugely popular with everybody. Back to the Future was a huge freaking chance.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It really was.
It could have gone either way.
I mean, if you didn't know anything about it, somebody says, yeah, we're going to make a funny time machine movie where a guy uses a car. Time,
kisses his mom.
He kisses his mom. How do you mind? Hangs out with this old creepy guy all the time, this teenage boy. It's really... What are you? How do you?
There's a guy.
But no, it worked perfectly. It was one of those, as we say, perfect movies. And we don't see them taking a chance on things like that anymore. They're either doing stale, old, predictable, we've seen it 1,000 times before, to try and just get butts in the seat and just lather it with a lot of CGI so that people will stay starry-eyed.
Oh, it's pretty, isn't it? Look, it's very pretty. Look at that. Ooh, lights.
Or they make stuff like Men or Midsummer or really weird stuff that just 85% of the public are just not going to even give it a shot. They're not going to really relate to it. And even movie snobs like you and me, I know I call the normie the group, but I do watch a lot of this stuff, and even I go, Jesus, I don't want to watch something and just come out of it just wanting to kill myself. Jeez.
I find it quite entertaining.
I know you do, and I worry about you.
With it, like I say, it's the writers' strike. I do understand why they've gone on strike, and I do understand that it's always with any kind of these strikes. We've had the National Health striking over here. What gets me is it's always the kind of, how can I put this nicely, the sort of lowest waged person that's striking. You never get a CEO striking. Well, the work conditions are terrible, and I'm only getting paid £60,000 a year. How am I supposed to survive on that? It's always those poor, the poor people at the bottom, and I mean that with the greatest respect. But it's never the higher ups who go on strike.
Well, you want to take a guy who makes the weirdest shit ever. It's David Fincher, right? Just makes like Eraserhead and things like that. Just weird stuff.
David Lynch. David Fincher. Lynch. Yeah, Fincher? I was thinking David Fincher. A Fight Club and S and Seven.
Oh no, I'm mixing them up.
David Lynch. David Lynch.
It's very early. I haven't had my coffee. But anyway, somebody challenged him to say, why don't you make something that isn't, some weird creature baby?
Yeah.
Something like that. And so he made a Disney movie called The Straight Story. It's rated G.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know it, yeah.
You know it?
Oh,
The
yeah,
guy gets
yeah,
on a
yeah.
lawnmower and goes to see his brother. And he travels like 200 miles on a lawnmower to
On
see
a
his
little,
brother.
little road
That's
mower.
the story. It's
Yeah.
great. It's not dumb. It's not childish. It's G-rated, yes, but it's absolutely great. And a lot of people, I think, would relate to it because it's just a very good, small, nice story.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. It's not manipulative. It's just really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't see the studios that, like at A24, trying those kinds of things. They want to be edgy. They want to be weird. They want to, they want to shock people sometimes, I think. That these independent filmmakers, they always got to do something to make it as shocking or as weird or as twisted or something that's just, to me, at this point, has gotten boring. I mean, I find more shocking in the 70 exploitation cinema or some of the horrible stuff that they did in that time than anything they do now. It's like, okay, you're being weird, you're being edgy. I get it.
I'm trying. I'm just
freak
quickly
out.
looking. I'm just trying to look through A24 stuff now because I'm sure I've got to find an example now. I mean, with it actually sort of looking through all this stuff, I am looking at it and going, yeah, it's not a normie film. Yeah, it's not a normie film. I mean, the Whale, for example, The Whale is not a normie film.
It's not a normie film.
Like you say, you kind of
don't want to discourage
the
them from making these films. These are good films. The Whale was a good film. These are all good films. Almost all of them are good films. I'm just saying, it's okay to make something that everybody likes too. You don't have to be. I mean, The Whale is a good film, but it's also not exactly a crowd pleaser, right? I mean, it's depressing as hell. It does,
I'm still looking through the thing, and I've been scrolling and thinking, nope, yeah, nope. So no, you may have a quite a valid point.
That's why I
that
loved
one.
Everything Everywhere All at Once so much, because as weird as it was a very optimistic film.
Yeah.
And I just think that Oscars and Hollywood, and they're so up their own butts that the only thing they think is good is if it's nihilistic or depressing or just awful. Hereditary. I mean, yes, it was a great film, but Jesus, the girl gets her head cut off. I mean, golly.
I found one. Back in 2017, they made The Disaster Artist, which was the making of The Room. By,
okay. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, but that was 2017, and I had to scroll through quite a lot of films to get there. Everything else that's coming up is kind of, it doesn't count. That doesn't count.
And maybe A24 is the wrong vehicle, but it would be nice to see some independent film company that could do something that was. I mean, we were in the most nihilistic times ever in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was bad. And then what comes out, you get the back-to-back of Jaws and then Star Wars, which were both rousing adventure films in their own right and still very, very good. And then that followed up with what I would call the Spielberg era. And I'm not saying everything has to be like that either. Right now, I just feel like everything's either depressing or corporate swill.
Let's move on from the miserable, boring writers screaming for money. Who cares about them? Easy. Oh, right. Dungeons and Dragons came out on streaming. It's been actually a pretty good week for movies, annoyingly. I hate the kind of way that I wait ages to find something and then several movies all come out at the same time. I watched Dungeons and Dragons and I quite enjoyed it. Now, I know from the trailer you said that you weren't quite looking forward to it. Have you seen it yet?
No, I'm planning to see it today, actually. I couldn't get to it before today. I wanted to, but
I won't deal too much with spoilers, but it's at its core, it's not Lord of the Rings and it's not Game of Thrones, where it's sort of set in this real world and everything about this world is real. It is just a modern movie take on Dungeons and Dragons where everybody's having a bit of fun. Is the way I can put it. And it hits some of the humour quite well. There are certain places where I did proper laugh at it because it was just so well done. And if you go into it with that mindset that this isn't like a serious take on a serious movie, this is a tongue-in-cheek summer blockbuster, you can have fun with it.
Yeah, I'll give it a try, mostly because you and some others, I think Drinker, they've all said this is way better than we thought. The trailer made it look like I
remember you saying about it.
I mean, it just looked like crap. It looks like garbage. I'm like, oh, well, why can't they make a Lord of the Rings epic with Dungeons and Dragons? Baldur's Gate is a great game. It follows D&D rules perfectly, right? And it has a good story and it takes itself seriously. It can be done, but every time they put Dungeons and Dragons label on a movie, it's crap. And now this one came out and I'm like going, well, I guess they're just not taking it seriously at all. And I'd like to see one where they actually tried to take it seriously. Even as much as I like Vox Machina, it still doesn't really take itself seriously. Although I haven't given this one a chance. I will try it. And if I like it, then I'll say so.
I think the critical drinker said that it's not the kind of film in 60 years' time you'll be happily reminiscing about. But like I say, I put it on to give it a go. And like I say, the characters are all likable. I didn't feel Michelle Rodriguez was over the top as the warrior. She just happened to be the warrior. And there is a couple of moments where it's kind of they're both him and her are tied up and walking, the hands tied behind their back. And he kind of says to her, "Have you got this?" with these guards. And he takes his time getting out because he knows he's not a fighter. Ultimately he's a musician, and so and just the dynamic between everybody kind of worked. There were a few places where it was not great, and I felt what's she called, Sophie Lillis, I think she's called, who was excellent in it, was the weakest of the characters in this. But overall, like I say, it was a perfectly decent summer blockbuster, which I found entertaining.
Yeah, one of the things that I heard just based on the trailers is a lot of people were going, hey, here we go, strong woman, while Chris Pine is an idiot, can't get anything done because she's throwing people around like she's, 300 pounds. I was like, there's a problem there when you react like that. On Dungeons & Dragons, when I played Dungeons & Dragons way back when, now I don't know if the rules have changed at all, but far as I know, they're basically the same. The gender of the character was purely an aesthetic choice. It had nothing to do with if you rolled an 18 for a female warrior, it was the same as an 18 for a male warrior. It didn't matter. The strength was the strength. It's kind of explained that her clan, creed, whatever she is born from a race of warriors. So again, I didn't have an issue with it. It was just, she happened to be the tank, and there's also a mage, and there's also a healer, and this kind of thing. And so it wasn't the way it was played out. It wasn't played so it was kind of like, look how great she is and how crap Men is. It was just they were always all part of a team, and I like the fact that they were kind of good friends for like a long time and stuff. So again, it's just they found each other, which is all explained quite cheesily at the beginning actually, which is quite funny. So yeah, like I say, I enjoyed it. It was a solid movie. Yeah, excellent. I mean, I'll give it a go.
I'm just going to say this. What did annoy me though was Chris Pine's character was married to a black woman, which I don't know.
Racist.
It's just kind of not in that way. It's just kind of in Hollywood now. It's kind of like every single couple have to be mixed race, and it's just kind of every now and then. Do you know what? A white person marries a white person. It does happen. It's fine. But it does happen. But it's just, even in sort of like fantasy films now, it's just kind of, really? And again, that just...
Did I tell you I watched that Eddie Murphy movie recently with, what's his name? The guy that's been in Wolf of Wall Street and Superbad.
Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy. And Jonah Hill meets this black girl, and they have a kindle a relationship. They want to get married, and it went exactly like I would expect it to go. The white people were treating, like they were so proud of him for getting a black girl, and they were treating her like an accessory rather than as a person, or at least the mom was, more as own anything. Kind of like you would expect a lefty, liberal, white woman to be, right?
Yeah.
And Eddie Murphy was the dad, and he was like, you ain't marrying no white guy. You know, he was just like completely racist the other way. He's like, yeah, screw white people. And I think that's probably where it is right now. You know, I think that white people look at sometimes black people like a virtue accessory, and black people just don't want to have anything to do with white people. And so all these mixed race couples that Hollywood shoves on them, I think both races are going, okay. Well, white people would be like, yeah, we do that because we're awesome and we're so virtuous. Yeah. Like, okay.
And it like I say, it just irked me from a fantasy film viewpoint, because it was just kind of like, we don't need to have this in there. You know, it's one of those things, like I say, that it's just, you know, it's a fantasy. It's like the whole lesbian thing in Willow. It was completely unnecessary. You know, nobody.
It's just inorganic and inauthentic the way they do it.
And like I say, I just wasn't. Like I say, that's the only thing that irks me about the film. The rest of the film, like I say, was good fun, and I had a jolly good time with it. White people do not. They don't. They don't know. It's a weird world in which we live, where, you know, in this fantasy world in which we live, every couple is mixed. Which, if it is the case, my wife is. If I could get two Asian wives, both, you know, her age is sort of what, 46, so I could get two 23-year-old Asian wives.
Is that the trade-in value though? I'm thinking depreciation.
Oh yeah, they're probably going to interview her beforehand. I'm probably better with her.
Is she can hear me? Is she here?
Speaking of attractive women, Dr. Jackal is some images have come out of Eddie Izzard playing Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. I don't even know what the full thing is. All I'm going to say about this is Eddie Izzard is the worst actor in the world. He is terrible. And just, there's nothing about this movie which makes me... The only reason I'd want to watch it is so that I could absolutely slate it off in a review. Because I can't imagine at any point would I watch this film and go, that was actually quite decent and made me think.
Wasn't there a Dr. Jekyll and Ms. Hyde like spoof way back in the 80s or 70s?
It wasn't a spoof. It was a Hammer film. It was a seriously made Hammer film. It was towards the end. Yeah, it was towards the end of Hammer's productions when they used to do a bit of T&A in their films and stuff, which was a shame. But it was kind of, they were getting bums on seats. And so I wouldn't say it was a spoof. It was kind of a serious take, but it was a twist on the tale. But then, like you say, you've never kind of heard of it.
No, I'd heard of it. I don't know much about it, but I'm sure I've never seen it. But the whole, I mean, why is Eddie Izzard doing it? Because he's cross-dresser and trans, you know, it's going to have that whole through line in it, right? And I mean, I've seen Eddie Izzard. Like, I liked him in the Ocean series, okay, and I think he played a voice of a.
In the Ocean series?
Yeah, Ocean's 13, I think he was in. Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13. But he was playing a guy. He was just a guy.
Oh, right. I really don't remember that.
Yeah, he was all right.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Anyway.
So, but he also...
Oh, yeah, thank you.
He did the voice of a mouse or something in one of those Narnia movies, I think.
Oh, okay. Right, okay.
Caspian, maybe? I don't know. But, you know, I mean, in the right role, I think he's fine. He's another one. It's like, I really loved his stuff back in, like, Dressed to Kill, I think is fantastic. I like most of his stand-ups were great.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I'll give me stand-up. Yeah, goodness.
Yeah. But now he's another one of those that's just gone completely up his own ass, just buying into all the woke nonsense and just lost his mind. And now he's doing stuff like this, which you know is going to be some comment on trans whatever.
Again, weirdly, if you were going to do a kind of Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, it would be better to have somebody who is much more I want to say manly, to then have a contrast and stuff. But like you say, casting him was just, it was a weird choice. It was.
Yeah, I just don't see it being anything that anybody's going
to be interested in or what. But yeah, it's weird. You know what? We'll move on from that. Here's another review. This.
Pepe's Exorcist.
No, don't do that, because I am looking at it going, no, that is the Pope. The Pope's Exorcist, starring Russell Crowe. The trailers made it look quite good, so I thought I would give it a go. I haven't laughed so much in quite a while. It was one of those films where, how can I describe it? It's the silly little things. Yeah, crap is a good word. It's the silly little things, like he travels from Italy to Spain, and when he turns up in Spain, he's on a little Vespa moped. Now, according to the IMDb, apparently that was Russell Crowe's idea to have a little moped, because a lot of the priests and a lot of people in Rome get around on little mopeds. Obviously, it's nice and easy. Right? You don't travel from Italy to Spain on a moped without... I kept thinking of the scene in Dumb and Dumber where they both turn up and sort of like, and they're both freezing cold, and he's like, no, I ate a big June bug, so I'm quite all right, and stuff like this. And just from the outset, it was bad. There was nothing scary about it. It was a whole cliche. And the main kid who gets possessed was just, he's not a terrible actor, but he was just so cute. And so he wasn't menacing or anything at all. I just kept wanting to go, who's a cute little demon? Oh, you in it. Yeah, you are. And it was bad.
You're adorable. Yes. Yes, my mom does suck cocks in hell. Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
Yeah, she does. Hello, Heidi. We didn't ban the hillbilly. He's got a girlfriend, so we don't see him anymore. He's dumped his friends. But when she turns up dead, unexpectedly, we're the ones who have got to pick up all the pieces. Anyway, nice to have you with us. But yes, this was not a good horror film. It's a great comedy. If you wanted a good laugh, you can certainly have a good giggle at it. But it's not a good film. It was.
Draker really. Well, he liked it. I wouldn't say that it was. He gave it a recommend. I was kind of surprised. He says, it's not. He acknowledged it had problems, but he just seemed like he was pretty entertained by it.
Did he really?
So, yeah.
I missed that video.
Maybe, yeah. Give him a. I don't know if it's an extra, one of the extras or whatever, but you might take a look and see what he thought of it.
No. It's because he had a chat with Russell Crowe. That's why. He interviewed Russell Crowe. That's what it is. That's why.
Maybe, but he didn't like give it like it's the most glowing recommendation in the world. I wouldn't say that, but he did seem to. He was reasonably entertained by it. He was kind of surprised. So go figure.
Oh, and for me, I wouldn't say I'm a connoisseur of horror, but I do like my horror. But for me, it covered every single trope and every single cliche you could possibly imagine. It didn't even have like jump scares. So there wasn't anything to even like, and it didn't work for me on any level.
I got the impression from him it was more of an action movie. I don't know if I go far as action comedy, but more of a lighter tone than say a typical horror movie.
The only video I've not watched of his within the last month has been his interview with Russell Crowe. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why I gave a bit of a review. He's a shell. That's what it is.
I knew he'd sell out sooner or later. It's all it took. Russell Crowe threatening his family, and boy, he just turns over.
In one life or another, I will have revenge. With it, I don't know. Like I say, maybe that is the case. I haven't watched that interview, which I'm going to have to now. But honestly, like I say, I thought The Pope's Exorcist as a horror film didn't work. Didn't work at all.
I haven't seen his interview, but he did do a short, blurb review that he does.
He didn't. I've just looked. He didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Well, you have to send me the link then.
I watched it. Maybe he pulled it down. I don't know. It's like,
Let's
okay,
talk
they
about-
released my family. I'm wiping it.
Yeah, that's right. Wife and kids are happy and home safe now. I can take that
Yeah.
crap off. Okie doke. So let's talk about something which I want to say I am looking forward to, but I was a mild bit disappointed with the trailer, and that was June 2. I take it you saw the trailer. No, you're not going to find it. I've just looked.
He has a secondary channel. I bet you don't have that.
No. Why has he got a secondary channel?
Critical Drinkers Extra Shots.
Oh no, that's where he. Yes, no, I do know what you mean. Yeah, that's kind of where he has a chat with a few people and stuff. We'd love to get him on here, Critical Drinker, if you'd ever like to join us. Just don't watch any of the previous shows.
No, watch them all. I think you'll love them.
Like I say, I didn't rate it anyway. So look, we're going to go something new. June 2. Now, did you watch the trailer for this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was a little underwhelmed.
I was underwhelmed by the first trailer, and I think that's what I like about
Oh, okay.
Denny is that he just
Denny.
Denny. We're like this. Denny Villeneuve is very understated, I think, in his trailers, and he's a little understated in his movies in some ways, to their benefit. That's what I like about his movies, is that they have a grittiness they're not flashy, but
Okay.
in a good way. That's what I like about them. I don't see anything here that's I could barely tell what the hell he was doing on that worm. I mean, it's just nothing but sand. But I'm like going, I'm in. I'm good. I'm in. It's Villeneuve. I love doing one. I'm in. Yeah. Here, shut up and take my money.
Like I say, I didn't. I can't remember the first trailer for the first June, and so it's completely kind of void from my mind. I only just remember the film now, and so watching this trailer, I was just kind of, well, I was hoping for a bit more. The weirding modules that they have, where they, and so just at the moment, my skirt is not blown up. So I am hoping.
It's not out till what, Thanksgiving, I think.
November time, I think it is. Yeah,
November,
beginning of
yeah. So I guarantee there'll be a longer trailer sometime in August.
Oh, there he is. Right now, apparently, drinkers extra short Pope's Exorcist. Right, fine. I shall have to give that a go. It's weird. Usually, we do quite agree myself and the Critical Drinker, but every now and then he's wrong. I thought Midsommar was a great movie, but he thought it was one of the most sort of worst movies of the year. So
I didn't like it that much either, but that's.
Oh no!
I don't know that it would have mattered whether he liked it or you like. That's one of those movies it's like Hereditary. I respect it more than I liked it.
Okay, fair enough. I must admit I've only seen it once, but I do remember quite enjoying it. But then I also remember going on YouTube afterwards and trying to get explanations for everything. And when I found a few, I was thinking, actually, no, that's quite clever, but that's not really what you should be doing with a movie. But then it's Ari Aster, so he does make films like that. But yes, June 2 is out in November, and we are looking forward to it. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a cinema experience, which is what I am looking forward to. It's a shame Sean's not here, because May 4th was Star Wars Day. How did you spend Star Wars Day, Yoda?
Working. I don't think I did anything Star Wars related. I did go see Return of the Jedi last week, which I think we talked about a little bit in the theater, because it was like the 40th anniversary, and I was kind of shocked at how well it holds up. I figured on the big screen I would see things that dated it, especially the effects. And for the most part, no, it's Return of the Jedi, and I love it. I wish Vader didn't scream. I wish we didn't have the replacement for Lopty Neck. But other than
that was my day. I sat with my toys, eating a KFC. That, by the way, if you can't see it, that is a corn on the cob on the stick, because I was asked, what the hell is that? But yeah, I had a KFC, and you'll notice that this is the original logo and not the new logo, because I still have a copy of, where is it? Yes, I still have, let's get rid of that now. Get rid of that one. I still have the original cut on DVD twice, because this contains, you can see there that it says the original theatrical version, which I spoke to a couple of people on Twitter, and I know a kid from Canada said that, where did you get that from, bootleg? And I said, no, it was out in the UK, because that is a UK copy.
It was out here.
When
they'd released it all on DVD. This was right during the whole Blu-ray HD DVD fiasco, so nothing was coming out in HD quite yet, and so they put it in. They re-released the original trilogy, but they added in to the special edition these DVDs that had the theatrical releases, but they were done in non-anamorphic, like matted. It was bad. Yeah, it's like, it was almost a big FU. Like, we just wanted to see it like as good as DVD. At least, make it so that it filled the screen properly and stuff like that. It looked like shit. And so I go with the despecialized editions that you can find in various places.
I must admit, I do have a copy of the despecialized editions as well. But the quality was not great, but it kind of didn't matter, because it was just still that theatrical cut. And I had a blast that day. Like I say, I was quite happy at home. I actually bought, this is really bad, I bought a 6-piece family meal and had the whole thing to myself. It was a wonder I didn't spend most of the evening on the toilet. What's happening now? Vader's fighting Luke, and Luke's losing a bit. And stuff.
I'm losing a bit too.
But like I say, I had a great day on Star Wars Day. For me, I put up, there's an article on the website, you can read about it, but I mean, me and my dad used to watch it, or at least one of the films, on Star Wars Day every year. So just for me, taking the day off and sitting down and watching it, happy days.
Yeah, it kind of, it's my take watching Return of the Jedi again, it's like, all this crap that's coming out, they can't take away how good those 3 movies are. They just can't.
That's it. Yeah. Hand shooting first, and that kind of thing. Like I say, no matter what they do, they can't get close to it. And like I say, and what I love is the fact it's like, look, Disney, you can't take this away from me. You can't change it and do anything with it, because this is mine, my hard copy. That's the best thing about it.
McClunky.
So yeah, I had a good Star Wars day. So we are going to move on and carry on talking about this. Well, do you want to talk about the Anakin versus Luke? Because that was, I thought Aggie was going to be here, and that was kind of his article. Should we save that, or do you want to talk about it?
You know what? The only thing I can say about that is like, well, Luke already beat Anakin. We saw it happen. What's the problem here? Why is this a big...
This is very true.
I mean, you can't say that he wasn't more powerful as Vader. He beat his ass. So, say that, I think that's settled as far as I'm concerned.
On Star Wars Day, I watched The Menagerie.
That is a Star Trek 2-part episode.
Oh, right.
Retelling of the Cage. If I'm picking the right thing, and I'll give you a salute. I'm fine with it. Approved.
I was thinking, there's obviously a joke in there somewhere, but I don't know what it was, but I'm glad Yoda enjoyed it. Okay, so I mean, we did have Anakin versus Luke, but what we are going to move on to Star Wars Visions 2.
I the first Visions was like, it's one of those, like, anthology things. I saw it once. I'm like going, oh, that was okay. I'll never watch it again.
I loved the first series. It was unusual. It was weird. It was odd. It was creative. It was beautiful. I loved what they did. Genuinely loved what they did. I was looking forward to Visions number 2. Because again, it was just one of those films that I was just happy to sit down, or a series I was happy to sit down and give it a go. The first episode has a Sith character who is a female Sith character, which is, I'm going to come back to in a minute, who is given up her Sith ways and become an artist. And I was thinking, a little bit girly, but that's fair enough. That's okay. That's fine. She gets attacked by these Sith guys. She takes them all out. It's happily ever after. And I was like, it was well animated, beautiful to look at, but I thought, right, okay. The second episode...
No, wait. The Sith is ruled by the dark side. Dark side is all about getting power. If you're just sitting there painting, you're not a Sith anymore. I'm sorry, you're not dark side anymore.
No, I know.
But you're light side. So you say former Sith or an actual Sith?
A former Sith, because these guys kind of like, she was in a group with these guys and she left.
So she renounced her ways.
Yes, is what it is. And he keeps saying, you're a Sith, you'll always be a Sith type of thing. And I was like, right, okay. I can't remember the second one at all. Oh, no, that's right. No, I do remember it. It's a bunch of Irish kids who are working like in a child labour place, probably for the Empire. They go off to find what there's a hidden cave with apparently a screaming demon in there or something. And there's a young girl and 3 boys, as I remember. I might be wrong. But the young girl confronts the screaming demon, who is a Sith Lord, apparently. The 3 boys leave. She stays in there. She manages to kill this Sith Lord, and then a Jedi turns up saying, I've been wanting you to do this for a long time. You can keep this now. You can come with me. Hooray! Another female. Brilliant. The third episode was about 2 young girls, sisters, who had lost their mum, and how they then they were stealing water from an Empire place, which was run by a female officer of some description, and how they used the powers to overcome thing and blah, blah, blah. At this point, I was going, right, fair enough. The fourth one was the Aardman one, which I was quite looking forward to. It was entitled I Am Your Mother. And it's about a young girl and her mum who enter a speeder race against another girl and her mum, and how they win and overcome and blah, blah, blah. At this point,
sensing a theme.
At this point, I looked up the synopsis for the several of the others, and they all are, a young female Jedi, a young woman. And it was just, no, I'm not doing it. I can't. You can call me sexist, misogynist, or whatever else you want to call me under the sun. Feminism has ruined Star Wars, and yet the whole. I'm not being funny about that. I've looked into this. I'm not going to get on my soapbox again. But this whole the last season of Visions, they seem to say, just do whatever you want. Whatever you want to make. And there were some characters which had a female star, which was still excellent. But in this one, it seems to be, do whatever you want, make whatever you want. It's got to be about a woman, though. And so it just feels like Disney have interfered.
I got a couple of things on this. I thought I heard recently that I thought were interesting. One, Evangeline Lilly. She was in Lost. She was the Wasp, and then she was in the Hobbit. She just put out a statement that said, "Why are we demonizing men being masculine? Why are we making women masculine and trying to make men feminine, or saying it's bad for the sex that you are to act like the sex that you are? If you're a man, you can't act masculine, and if you're a woman, you can't act feminine. Why are we doing this?" is what her point was. And I thought, that's exactly what's happening. If men do masculine stuff, it's bad. But if the women are kick-ass, then they're kick-ass females who don't take no shit or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. And I heard something else that's kind of dovetails into this, but I thought it was interesting. Back when the original Star Trek came out, and you had all the women in the miniskirts, right? All that was showing off their legs and everything. And if you watch any modern day woman write about that, like these sexist outfits that they stuck her into, right? And apparently back in the day, women were like really happy about those outfits. They're like, we're glad to see that women are still women in the future.
Yeah. Feminine.
Contemporary women in the 60s were happy to see the women wearing dresses, even if they were a little risque or whatever, that they were accentuating femininity in that series. That they liked that. And now they, so this was just natural. This is just what they like. They're like, oh, good, women look like women and they don't look like men. And now the whole culture has been so brainwashed to say women can't look like women and men can't look like men or act or whatever. And it's like, Lily, you got a point there. I mean, it's kind of awful. And gee, I wonder why nobody's responding to this. Can't wait to see that Disney stock release this week, by the way. Looking forward to that. Love to see people dying on ashes. Love it.
Again, we live in such a weird society. I think the Critical Drinker retweeted her, sort of saying, "Oh, careful there, Angelina, because you're dangerously close to getting yourself cancelled if you say something like that." And
she finished out her Ant-Man series. She's done. Whatever. Yeah, she's like, right. I'm at it with this shit. She's made enough money. Say whatever she wants. I'm glad somebody's saying it like that. It's like she would start out a model. I mean, her whole career has been based on accentuating her femininity. And now it's like, well, that's a bad thing. Because what do the models look like now? Horrible garbage?
The spoilers for the upcoming film, the first Jedi is a woman. And I don't know whether you're referring to like the Acolyte or anything that goes back as far as that. But because Rey came along and Rey was a Mary Sue and Rey was great at everything, Rey Palpatine, obviously, Luke died and was replaced with Rey, and it kind of killed the franchise. The majority of their fans absolutely hated it, had no vested interest in it, and it killed the franchise. So what did Disney do? We should bring Rey back. Let's bring back this Mary Sue, who everybody seems to love. Not everybody. And you've got these small factions of people who, again, on Star Wars Day, I was seeing people saying, who's your favourite character? Oh, it's easily Rey. And I didn't get into arguments because I'm not an idiot, but, I'm sat there going, so your favourite character is the character that literally killed the franchise. That's your favourite character, is it? That's who you like out of all of them, is it? And the whole female thing has become a joke now, that it's not about, again, Setligs just made another good point there. That's the point. It's not about equality. It is about men being pushed aside, trampled on, and completely degraded. If you look at there's a great quote from somebody, I can't remember who it was now, but they said how Rey got on the Millennium Falcon and she bypassed the hyperdrive and blah blah blah. So she actually knew the Falcon better than Han Solo. So now Han Solo's been pushed aside as well. So Luke was pushed aside, and it's the fact that the women can't be equal. They've got to be better than men in every single respect, and that is the problem that's being caused today. And like I say, Visions.
Because ladies, you're in for a rude awakening in real life. A sexist would say.
but Star Wars Visions 2, like I say, I got to the 4th episode and it was just how great women are and how brilliant women are and blah, blah, blah. And it's like you're trying to appeal to a very small fan base, because ultimately Star Wars is people like the two of us, old farts, who grew up trying to reach the TV remote control using the Force because that's what Luke could do. And you killed Luke off because you wanted to replace him with a woman. And it's ruined it, and it's just I'm fed up with it.
Boys need role models too, and just like women do. And I'm just saying. Do
you know what I'm saying about that? A good friend of mine who's a girl, because I do know girls in real life, but a good friend of mine who's a girl. We always say hello to each other on Star Wars Day because we're both big fans, and she was saying about how she grew up loving Princess Leia because not only was Princess Leia a badass, she didn't take any crap from Han and Chewie and all this. Like when you first meet her, she's badass, but she also loved how Carrie Fisher was so outspoken and such a powerful woman in a completely male-dominated industry. And she was badass and she loved it. But that's too subtle. We can't have subtle, and we certainly can't have women struggling. So let's just have Rey, who's brilliant at everything, no struggle, anything else, just be great. And that's what you can expect in life, girls. Everything's you'll just be great because you're a woman. And like you say, in real life,
I would say that Princess Leia wasn't that physical. it wasn't until later on that, like in Jedi, she started getting more physical with things because revealed that she's, you know, Luke's sister and she's got the Force, and so she's does a few things like jump on the speeder bike and that kind of stuff.
I just meant her whole attitude was just badass,
right?
You know,
her attitude at the beginning was feisty, takes control. She's a senator, right? So she's used to making decisions and that sort of thing, but she still needs the guys, like she needs Luke to swing her across the chasm and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's all fine. It's all like they're all working together, and it's emphasizing the strengths they have as people, as the individuals. This is what bothers me so much. It's like we're always accentuating the group characteristic. Women are badass. It's like, well, not all women. Some women suck. You know, some men suck. That's okay. You can, you know, you don't have to elevate women just by being women. You're giving them the worst thing, I think, is what you're giving people is this unrealistic expectation of success simply by being born a certain way. It's like, well, life doesn't work that way. You're setting people up for a lot of failure. Why would you do that to them?
Yeah. Exactly. And like I say, I mean, you know, watching the original trilogy again, like I say, I know what you're saying, but like I say, from the very outset, she, you know, this stormtrooper walks in and she goes, "Aren't you a little short?" She's not scared of him. You know, she's going to stand up against him. And then when Han and Chewie do turn up, it's like, "I'll get this walking carpet out of my way." So, you know, she's like, "No, I'm taking charge. I'm in charge of this group now." You know, and it's just like I say, she was so great, and it was just, like I say, women have ruined Star Wars. Women are ruining everything. Oh dear. Should never give it another vote. Anyway. Hang on a minute. I'm just. Let's have a look at some of these. Look, the movie they fired the writer and the director from. Now KK is taken over. Rest assured that the first Jedi is a woman. Man messed up. Now Rey is here to fix the mess. To have. That's exactly what's going to happen.
The first Jedi, I think, is a black woman. So I started playing Jedi Survivor.
Okay.
Which is
I still haven't
good.
got around to it yet. But yeah.
What's that?
I haven't got around to it yet.
I started playing it. It's fun. But there is a quick flashback scene where they find this really old droid from like 1,000 years ago. It's really old. And they get it working again. But you know how he gets down, he'll do some force mumbo jumbo, push the right stick down. And then he gets a vision. Well, in this case, he got a vision. And it was this black Jedi acolyte that was telling the droid to do something. I honestly can't remember what it is. I'll figure it out as I go along. But you know, I mean, it's like they're trying to stick this acolyte crap into the game. Some of it, I get it, to tie it all together to make it all feel like the same universe. But I know this acolyte's going to suck, and I don't care. Don't care.
Rey is KK. Yeah. I know, and I kind of wonder what's going to happen with Indiana Jones, because if Indiana Jones is a huge failure, she has got to be fired. She's got to be fired. But then conversely, we've also seen that, you know, Star Wars has been a complete failure, but yet she still seems to be there and having a job. This is very true. Somebody said, and a great quote about this was when they said the Force is female, it's ridiculous. Somebody said the Force is for everyone. It's not female. The Force is for everyone. Anybody can have the Force. It's not just a female, like you say. It's not just because you were born a biological woman. Let's not go down that road. That the Force is for you, as opposed to say Luke and Anakin and, you know, all these other great Jedi, Obi-Wan and stuff, who have had the Force and they've been males.
It's even for 3-foot frogs. I don't see what the problem is here.
Exactly. You talk funny. Let's again move on. Do you notice, and this is completely separate, but when you're coming to edit these up, I put a nice little pause in between?
I've noticed that. Yes, I have. I have noticed that.
It's almost like we're professional.
Unless you talk about it and ruin the you know, the magic, but fine.
That's fine. No. Let's do this bit again then. So, because we're not live, are we? Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has finally hit the cinemas. Now, this came out on Wednesday over here, and I had the day off, and I was coming umming and ahhing because I thought, A, I'd like to go and see it, but B, it would mean leaving the house, and I don't really like doing that. But I did.
You get that too, huh?
Yeah. Well, the NPCs aren't very friendly, and the quality's never generally very good either. And nobody's told me where the respawn point is outside. So I don't know where it is.
Oh, I got bad news for you.
I'm in this hospital again. So
why is this guy spanking me on the ass? Oh no, my save point.
Have you seen it?
I did. Saw it last night.
Okay. So just before we go on, then we will possibly talk about spoilers. I know Eggy was trying to avoid them, so this is actually a good thing he's not here. So overall, what was your impression?
Oh man, this was a tough one. Because it certainly isn't crap. I mean, it's above average. But whatever it was that made the first two, because I actually like the second one better than the first one, although I do love the first one. I just think the second one had better villain, and I like it. Just had a little bit more heart to it, a little bit more emotion. This one tried to do that, and it sometimes succeeded, and sometimes it did not. And it's a little long. Pacing could probably be trimmed up a bit.
Yeah.
And so, should we talk spoilers? I mean, it's hard to talk about that.
Basically, yes, we are going to be talking spoilers. If you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet, come back and watch this video again, because that actually helps with the algorithm.
Yes. So the watch from the beginning. I don't care if you watch all this. I'll do it again. The story is Rocket's story for the most part, but they sideline him for the first 2/3 of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. I'd say even longer than that. Maybe 3/4.
Maybe. Now, they do give him a sizable amount of flashbacks, but showing how he became who he is, how he became Rocket Raccoon. And since he doesn't interact with the rest of the Guardians very much, it's hard to get as invested. I don't feel the emotion that I should in this thing. Mm. And then but it's not like none of the other Guardians have anything to do. They do, and they have some of their fights, but they never take it to a logical conclusion to give you any emotional, anything. Mm. And so the two things I noticed, like it was in a full theater, and there was some obvious big moments, applause moments, and everybody just kind of was sitting there stone faced. And
right, yeah,
it should have been big emotional. One was when Rocket at the end, he's getting thrown around by the High Evolutionary, right. And then he hits a thing on his ankle that negates the High Evolutionary's power. Yeah. And goes, I'm Rocket. And that's supposed to be a big moment. It's supposed to be a huge moment where it's
supposed to be a Captain America with the hammers moment.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like he's overcome this guy that caused him so much pain for so long. And he says the line, it's almost a trailer line, I'm Rocket Raccoon or something like that. And he shoots him. And everybody in the theater, including myself, was like going, cool. There was nothing there. I should have been like with his father and with Yondu dying, I got worked up on that. Yeah. But with this, I was like, nothing. And part of that was because there should have been less flashbacks and more of him interacting, I think. And maybe then we could have gotten more emotionally connected with Rocket and this stuff. Now, this is kind of one of those where it's like, I just don't think it was the best choice the way they did it. It didn't grab me emotionally. I don't think the story is garbage or anything. And it's not. If you want to watch it, I'd say you won't regret watching it. I don't want to crap on it. I just say, is it at the other two where it really had some really good emotion? but the songs didn't really. They were there. They didn't really. They weren't. They didn't evoke anything when they played them.
I did feel with the music it was overused. In the original movies, or both of the original movies, there's songs which obviously sort of come up and take precedence. But in this, it kind of, a song would come up and take precedence, and then another one, and then I think by the third or fourth time, I'm like, yes, it's a great soundtrack. We get it, James. You can tone that down a little bit now.
It didn't, like in the second one, and they did it best with the second one, although they did it very well in the first one. In the second one, they started out with Blue Skies, with Groot dancing around while all this stuff is going on in the background. It's a great way to start up, and the music works perfectly in that moment, the way they did it. And then after they get kind of past it, and they have a little respite, and they're going to leave and kind of head out to whatever they're doing. They play Lakeside Drive, or I think that's what it's called. But it's about, it's kind of like a little road song that kind of evokes the emotion, which is great. And then at the very end, after, they play the Cat Stevens dad song that really works after Yondu's just been buried and everything. And he's got little baby Groot there, which is kind of like a new surrogate son. And he's listening to it with him like a father and son would. The music that he picked worked specifically well for the setting that he set up in those scenes, right? Yeah. That never really happened in this movie, in my opinion. Not to that extent.
Let me just bring up Setlick's point here that the music was his mum's. Hang on. I'll put up the one where you spelt it right.
Yeah.
The music was his mum's favourite. And that's true, because obviously his mum, gave him this cassette. And so there was that kind of emotional connectional level, whereas kind of, again, in the second one it worked because he got given a Zoom and, there's like so many thousands of songs on there. But in this one, it just, like you say, it was emotionally just distant from what was going on.
Yeah, and then, you throw in that there's stuff in there from the early 2000s even, and it doesn't feel... This is one of those things, like, it just didn't feel like the other two movies. It didn't feel like a Guardians movie in some ways, and I don't know if it was... they built up this team, the core team of Rocket, Groot, Quill, Drax, and Gamora, and now Gamora is not Gamora anymore. And she was way too abrasive. Even, like, I get they took her back for 2014, but when we saw her in 2014 in the first Guardians movie, she was not nearly this abrasive as she was in this movie.
Then we don't know how long she's then been spending with the Ravagers.
I know, but it still didn't feel like it was her. Like, right. I know it's not her, but it's, you don't feel like she could grow into that person. And then when she ends up with the Ravagers at the end, I'm like, oh, no, that's not satisfying at all. Why do I don't care about any of these people. They were a gag in an end credit in 2. They're nothing. They have no emotional attachment to any of these people. Am I supposed to be happy for her that she's with all these strangers that I don't care about?
A little thing that just annoyed me about this was they go through these 3 shields to get to this Omnicore or whatever this place was. They get through these 3 shields, then they meet up with the Ravagers, and I kept thinking, so what? Everybody can just get through this shield really easily.
Well, he was doing some monkey business with something, and that's why he was able to get in, because he's a Ravager in the past, so he's able to do some.
No. What I mean is
bullshit. That's how they got in.
Right, yeah, but like this thing is protected by 3 shields. I know what Peter was doing when they get there, but when they get in the shield, it seems like the rest of the Ravagers were already inside there as well.
Yeah, and it was kind of both like, Ravagers, right? So they did the same thing. I don't know.
But I suppose then, actually, started thinking about it, Nebula did say that she contacted someone, so maybe they had just got in and were waiting for them. But then why would they attack them?
I mean, it's like they they do things that misdirect you for no good reason. I mean, good thing nobody started shooting at that moment, blowing away Sylvester Stallone right then. And then there's other times where it's like Dave Cullen mentioned, it's like Gamora just pushes Peter, just violent with him for no good reason, which is like we're just supposed to accept that. And I think what he missed there, I mean, I agree with him. The random violence in sometimes these movies for no reason is kind of a little ridiculous. But then Nebula pushes Drax later on in the movie. The three of them are kind of stuck, and Nebula is losing her patience with Drax, somewhat understandably. And she pushes him, and Mantis defends him. It doesn't mean you should push him, you know? You don't have the right to just push him. We need to talk. Just because, you know. And then she calls him stupid. She says, I do, you know, because Drax is stupid. And Drax kind of has a moment like, you guys think I'm stupid? And Mantis very honestly answers to, yes. And I'm like, oh my God, this could be a character. And then she touches him and goes, forget.
Yeah.
No character growth there, I guess. I was so mad when she did that. I was like, oh, here's a moment for Drax. And then there was like...
learn and grow and, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Drax, like, and they showed this in the trailer where they come down to Counter Earth. This bothered me, too. The destruction of Counter Earth. Like, everybody just kind of shrugged that off.
Yeah. Again,
Jesus Christ.
Again, I was the same of kind of just, so everybody just talks a funny language.
Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Let's go on an adventure. What? Hey, guard shit, did you, Guardians? I mean, that was just awful. That didn't need to happen. I mean, try to save somebody, would you? You're supposed to be superhero movies. I know Guardians are a little different, but still, you put Guardians in your name. I just thought that was awful. And then, but when they land on Counter Earth and Drax hits the girl way too hard with the basketball, a little girl, it's supposed to be a funny moment, right? Which just, it felt really mean.
You didn't laugh out. You didn't laugh out loud.
I did not laugh out loud. But then later on, what is Drax doing? Drax is the one that connects with all the little girls and little kids. Yeah. And he talks about his daughter. If this is a man who had a daughter and is connecting with these little kids and is becoming a father figure to them and everything else, this is not a man who would whack a girl with a basketball like that.
No, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Like, just for a cheap laugh, it's like, is he dumb or is he not dumb? Is he caring or is he not caring? He's all over the place. And when they have a moment where it's like, maybe they could address this, and then Mantis just says forget and uses her power to make him forget that she just said that. Undercut themselves. And now they're not even using humor to undercut it. They're just undercutting whatever can of worms they opened up. So it was things like that. Now, Rocket's almost dying, that did get to me. I thought he was going to die. I really did. And they did that well. And I felt a lot of things for this dumb CGI raccoon. But yes, I was feeling things. Well done there. I liked Adam Warlock. I like his little growth, little arc. But, he's ended up on the Guardians. And I don't know if he stayed through this credit scenes, but ended up with the Guardians. Kind of like that. I don't know why Quill just decided that he wanted to go see his grandpa. I don't see anything there that motivated him to go to Earth because he was running away or something. But it didn't work for me. Whatever they came up with, it didn't feel real. Nebula, I thought, was good. I like her running nowhere now and running the community. I thought that was good. Weirdly,
see, I thought Adam Warlock was completely sidelined.
Well, he was not. He was not going to be a major. Relief. Yeah, he was there as comic relief, but it's still. I like that he kind of saved Peter and wanted to know why he saved him. He was kind of this antagonist. He wasn't meant to be much, but I liked it. I get what they were doing with him. He's not going to be the comic guy. That's fine. That's what you're going to do, and for that, I don't know. Fine with him.
To me, they sold him quite big. And so I did think to myself, he's quite a bad guy. And it was not completely sidelined, but he was just sort of turned up. He was funny in his moments and stuff. But obviously the main antagonist was the High Evolutionary. And it was just kind of, right, okay. So misdirection, whatever. It just sort of, I don't know, like I say. And then come the end, you knew what was going to happen. And so it was just kind of, oh, right, okay, Peter's in trouble, and Warlock saved him. Like I say, I felt nothing towards that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I like the. I like that, that they had to try to save Rocket. I just wish they had done it a little bit quicker and got him back in the story a little bit more so we could get his mindset now.
My take on that was, with the whole Rocket thing, is, like I say, I do know what you're saying, that yes, he is part of the Guardians and everything else and blah, blah, blah. I found that the emotional backstory was actually quite good. In some prequels, we've seen how it kind of completely deconstructs the character, but having an explanation of why he's Rocket, why this high evolutionary was after him, why he's a bit cynical and he doesn't kind of want friends apart from Groot and stuff, that for me really worked. Really, really worked.
I agree. I agree. The whole backstory was great. It was emotional. It gave you a very good understanding of who he was as a character. My problem is that once basically him being sidelined and sitting on a table and them trying to save him was an excuse to do the entire backstory, which took forever. Then when he finally got back into the story in the present time, he wasn't really doing much to push forward the story. A few things here and there, but nothing more than he had done in any other of the Guardians movies. You know what I'm saying? Except for maybe rescuing the raccoons and all the little animals. And having his one big moment with the High Evolutionary, which wasn't enough. That was my problem with it. It was like he needed there had to be something more that he did once he got back into the story. So a little less flashback, a little bit more him having agency and doing more stuff. Having some sort of, it was missing that big emotional thing that would have made his I'm Rocket and killing the guy would have made it a lot more.
Like the whole, like you say, at the end of Endgame, Iron Man saying Iron Man was just that moment,
right? Because it had been telegraphed and built up, and we had those moments that drug us along on his journey. We got the beginning, the backstory of Rocket's journey. We understand that. We understand a little bit of what he went through in the first two Guardians movies, but and of course Endgame and Infinity War. But now it's like, now we're getting all his backstory, and then I guess go kill High Evolutionary. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What more? There's had to be something more. If you want me to get really emotionally invested in that end cycle, that's what I needed, and that's where I think something was missing there. And then them all just randomly separating, especially Quill. I guess Quill wanted to be with her, but he kind of accepted her. But Gamora was horribly misused in this movie. I just don't like at all what they did with her. On the flip side, I really like Nebula. I really liked how they used her and how she's become who she is. I kind of like that. So
I was indifferent to Nebula, weirdly. I don't know why. Like I say, I was just kind of indifferent to her in this one. What did you make of the whole heist bit at the beginning? Because I felt the whole thing was very much just, I want to say Act 1, but then weirdly, it was kind of almost the same as Act 1 of Return of the Jedi.
So we start out, they're all in let me take you back a little. We start out, they're all in nowhere. And I thought it was a pretty good setup of showing what their lives are. Yeah. Peter's a drunk. Everybody else is doing their thing. And then Adam Warlock comes in, and they have a big fight in nowhere. Even Kraglin had to figure out how to use the arrows still.
Yeah.
But and he figures it out at the end. We get a little bit of, what's the guy's name?
Sean Gunn.
No, not Sean Gunn. The guy who played Yondu.
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker. Yeah, we get a little brief cameo with him, which is nice. And so anyway, they defeat Adam Warlock, but Rocket's severely injured. So now they got to go find. They put a med pack on him, but it doesn't work because the shit that's in him has a fail safe, and if you try to do anything around the fail safe, it will just kill him. So you got to put the code in for the fail safe before you can put the med pack on him. But the med pack's like instant healing or whatever. So they go into this. It was actually kind of cool. This place that is a organic, bio space station. It's like
something that what's his name, David Cronenberg would create.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the bio gel packs on Voyager. If the whole Voyager was made up of that shit, then you get an idea what we're talking about here. And they all work inside this company, and that's where you get some wonderful Nathan Fillion cameos, which is actually kind of cool. He's got this guy that he just can't stand.
He's an idiot. Everything he says, I just want to murder him. Yeah,
I just want to murder everything he says. I just want to rip his head off. And then when he's talking to the gold lady, and she says,
Alicia,
yeah, she's like, she's looking back at Warlock, going, "Oh, he's such an idiot." He goes, "Idiot? Yeah, I understand totally. I got one of those myself."
I got one as well. Yeah.
Fillion was fun. I liked him.
Yeah.
But they break in.
It's always great seeing Fillion, but yeah.
Yeah, they break in. They screw things up. They have their moments. Some of it was in the trailer, but they go to get this thing that they think has Rocket's stuff in it, but it doesn't. So the whole heist thing turns out to be pretty much for naught. I think the only thing they figured out was that they found that guy with the
had stolen it, and
the fat Buddha guy had it put into his head, so they had to get that guy. And so that's when they find out about Counter Earth, and they go land down there, which looks just like Earth, except it's full of Cronenbergs.
It's full of. I was going to say, it's full of things from Sweet Tooth, with, the new series on Netflix. Half people, half alien.
Yeah, I think
half
it's
animal. I should say half animal.
I think it's like the High Evolutionary takes like just a regular old turtle, and he gooses up his evolution by 1 million years, and then now he's like
in a few seconds,
and he's done this with all these different animals, and he says, I'm going to send him to this perfect Earth, and then he gets to the perfect Earth. It's basically just like regular Earth, where people are beating the shit out of each other for met deals and things like that. And that's why he destroys it, because it isn't perfect, and so he ends up just like, there is a nice suburb, and there is people getting along. It's basically like Earth, it's just people just doing their thing. Just they don't speak the language, and then he's like, "Well, it's so good." He destroys the entire planet. I'm like, and nobody. What bothered me? I think nobody seemed to really care that much.
Do you know what Chateau said on his channel? That if you'd started with that would have been obviously quite an epic opening of all these people dying and everything else, and it would also give you good reason for why the High Evolutionary was doing what he was doing, that he was after Rocket. And again,
but we already kind of know a lot of that already through some of the flashbacks. We already know he's a big asshole. We know that he was way too arch. By the way, he was way too arch.
I think what I liked about him was, I think the actor whose name I forget now, but he is very Thespian and very Shakespeare, and I love the way he was like that. And I didn't kind of understand his suit, because obviously that suit gives him powers, because I was thinking he was very much kind of like Kang, because in that respect sort of thing. And again, I thought he was a good villain for the set piece, but I don't know. No, go on.
I guess when Rocket, so during the flashbacks, Rocket makes friends with these other animals that have been horribly transformed, and when he realizes that they're not gonna send him to Counter Earth, they're just gonna kill him, dissect him, whatever, because Rocket has the ability to be inventive, spontaneously inventive. Which kind of explains how he's always able to make all this shit in the other films. He's always just able to just...
I was going to say, not to spoil too much, but I mean, he kind of makes his own key card to get out of his own lock and free everybody, So he's creative and ingenious.
Yeah, and at that point, the Evolutionary kills the little otter Lila that he was I wouldn't say love, it wasn't like that, but it was like a little family,
Yeah.
And
That was horrible.
That was horrible.
Horrible.
And I mean, like, well done on making him emote the way he did. It's a raccoon, and I'm like feeling for him.
Yeah.
And
I'm not
and
crying.
he tears
I've
up.
got something in my eye.
Yeah. And he tears up he jumps on the high evolutionary. This is before the high evolutionary had these weird powers or whatever. And he tears the shit out of his face. Now, we don't see it until later. We don't realize that was a permanent, and it was horrifying. When you actually see what because he wears this mask. We don't know it's a mask. We think he's just like RoboCop with the skin.
Yeah, because it looks like, it's kind of pulled on. Yeah.
Which they make the RoboCop reference. Of course they do. But it turns out it's just a mask. So when they pull it off and you see the remnants of his face, it's like, that is rough. Wow.
Rocket really did not like that guy.
No. And I didn't feel sorry for him, but it was like, that was unexpected. Of course, you don't see that till the end. But the point is that that's how he gets away. He gets on his ship, and and then they cure him. By that time, you're well past, the counter-Earth has exploded. There's a bunch of stupid misunderstandings where Nebula and Mantis and Drax end up on the bad guy's ship, but to rescue Peter. But Peter and Groot have already rescued themselves, so now it's like, now we gotta go rescue them, and then we gotta go rescue the kids, and so they bring Nowhere, which I thought this was weird. It's like, Nowhere's a spaceship now, I guess.
Yeah, just like the Death Star.
And it comes
fly around space.
Yeah. So it comes to fight the other ship, and
I was going to say, at one moment, I wanted Nowhere to turn up over a planet going, "Show me what you got." Because it was a bit sort of, right, okay. Show me what you got.
That would have been good. I wanted to like this movie more than I did. And
weirdly then, if that's the case, just to counterpoint that, I wasn't that bothered about seeing it. And I was, on that Wednesday, I was kind of, I can wait this on streaming. And I thought, no, go on. There's a pub down the road. Have lunch there and go and see it. And so I wasn't looking forward to it, to be honest. I was kind of like, I can wait. Maybe because I went in with that attitude, I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like I say, it's far from perfect, and there are certainly things that are wrong with it. But I did think it was a perfect then set of the trilogy. Unlike, for example, Ant-Man, which had two perfectly good movies, and then the third one just absolutely, went completely nuts and went completely endgame, which completely, to me, really ruined things. This was, you had Guardians 1, Guardians 2, Guardians 3. It's now just a great trilogy that you could sit down and watch all three of them and have fun with all three of them. It's the way I
I guess some things worked really well and some things were a swing and a miss, I guess.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it a little bit like Return of the Jedi. Like, Return of the Jedi isn't quite where Star Wars and Empire are, but it still has really great moments. It's some things that you question, and and I feel like that a little bit like that about this.
That's exactly what I said, Setlink. That it is a good movie. It finished the trilogy off well. However, something that really did annoy me was there is a couple of scenes after the end credits. Obviously, it's a Marvel film, and I stayed for the last credits. I kept seeing people getting up and walking. People getting up and walking out and thinking, noobs. But right at the end, there's a scene. I'm not going to say what it was, but there's a scene right at the very end of the film, and after that, there's a flashcard comes up that says the legendary Star-Lord will return, and it was just kind of, guys, why did you do that? You should just leave it as a trilogy. But we know it's Disney and it's Marvel, and they can't stop producing this content, and so
it might be Avengers Avengers 4 and Avengers 5. Who knows? It may not be.
But it was to me that was just.
It won't be James Gunn He's done.
Yeah.
He's not doing nothing with them anymore. So
No.
I would guess that they're just going to show up in some Avengers movies or something. I don't think it's.
But I did think to myself, just don't do that. You know, Indiana Jones was a perfect trilogy, and then you had to go and make Crystal Skull. You know, and just no. So that kind of annoyed me. But overall, I was entertained by the whole thing. I shed a tear or two because I had something in my eye. But no, it was good. Like I say, it finished the trilogy off well. When it comes out on streaming, I'd happily sit down and watch Guardians 2, and then Guardians 3 as a trilogy again.
Yeah, I just whatever magic sauce that they put on the other two was just not quite there for this one, and I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, if you're gonna say, well, other than Spider-Man, No Way Home, it's the best post Endgame movie, I'd say yeah. Absolutely. Or you'll put it at the second best, maybe. Because there hasn't been anything even close.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you think of... I mean, I kept thinking back to, like, The Eternals, which was just ridiculous. Legend of the Ten Rings of Shang-Chi, whatever, was kind of... It was all right, but I've never returned to it. Black Widow was terrible. And, you know, a few of these other movies and stuff, nothing... Like I say, there's nothing that's come out that I thought to myself, I can't wait to see that again. Even Quantumania, because, you know, Quantumania I see is coming on streaming, and I just think, you know, I watched that once and it was stupid. I'm not going to watch it again. Guardians, I'm quite looking forward to seeing it again a second time.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, it's
a movie.
It was a B. It was a B plus, I guess.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's not like. Yeah, these are the hardest ones to grade because it's like you want it to be better than what it is, but you can't really say it was terrible or anything either. It wasn't.
Do you know what? I've always found that quite weird, that Age of Ultron, a lot of people dumped on Age of Ultron because I think the Avengers, the Avengers Assemble was such a great movie, and they, Joss Whedon nailed it. And so when you then had another set of movies that went off and then we brought the Avengers back for Age of Ultron, a lot of people kind of expected it to be even better than the Avengers. And I think the Avengers and Ultron are very much on the same level pegging, but people were expecting more out of it. And it's kind of underrated. And like I say, I think people dumped on it a bit. And
I think Age of Ultron laid down a lot of groundwork for what was to come later. It certainly laid some of the groundwork for Civil War. And not just the Sokovia Accords. I mean, I'm talking about Stark and Cap's relationship,
and Captain,
things like that.
It's a really solid movie.
Yeah, I feel like Age of Ultron is one that got better because of what came after it, and I always liked it. I always thought it was fine, but it's one that I've gone back to and found things. It's like, oh yeah, then this came, cool, little Easter eggs. I don't want to say soured. I still like the movie, but I feel like the first Avengers is actually somewhat becoming the redheaded stepchild. It feels a little too. I don't know how to explain it. It was their first one, right? Like there's some tone stuff and some story stuff and some things that they were doing with Age of Ultron and really starting with the Winter Soldier. I think once the Russos got in there, they added some sort of spice to the movies. Even though Whedon did Age of Ultron, I think there was something that got added in there that continued on through Civil War and then the Infinity War and Endgame. That the first Avengers doesn't quite have. It feels a little, I guess, first movie-ish. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know. I remember.
I like it. I don't want to say it's terrible or anything. I'm not trying to say that. It's just it has like the beginning is not good, and then after that it gets much better. But it's I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't quite have whatever it is the rest of the movies have. I don't know how to explain it.
That's fine. Satlick has said yes. Satlick has said, I stayed for the end credits since 1970. What, are you still in the same cinema? I appreciate all the
that's a long ass
behind
movie.
the camera.
Jesus.
I own all the originals, no bootlegs. Modern end credits are amusing. That is the problem with modern end credits. Is I put together a list once, and it had on one side, it was like Jason the Argonauts, special effects done by Ray Harryhausen. Marvel Endgame, special effects done by like a little list of like 1,000 names pretty much, and like they have got out of hand and it is ridiculous. But no, I'm the same. I would always stay. I sometimes like going through the end credits, and as it's randomly going along, you'll sort of say, "Hey, Dean Smith, focus puller, you did a good job, mate. Well done." You just randomly pick a name and just sort of say, well done on that key grip. I think you did an excellent job there.
That's
just
right.
to sort of just to show them a bit of appreciation. You know?
Yeah. Hey, let's give a shout out to that caterer. Well done.
Exactly.
So,
Okie doke.
yeah,
So,
that's my thoughts on Guardians. I think it was. I'm not going to say you're going to regret seeing it or anything like that. I just think if you're going in there expecting just this, because the first one was kind of a revelation. It was something that we had never really seen before. The second one, I think, was kind of like it's Empire Strikes Back, where it really amped up the emotion and all that kind of stuff and did a great job with it. And then the third one is kind of like Return of the Jedi. It's like, it's good. It's not quite what I hoped, but not, a little too long. Okay. Fine.
There's a review of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Okay.
You all hate
Okey-doke.
yourself. Should be on the poster. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You won't hate yourself.
You won't hate yourself. Drunken Yoda, Last Movie Outpost. Okie dokie, mate. Would you like to please wrap up the show for us then?
Oh, do we have to? It's only... Oh, shit. It's 2:00. Oh, my God. We actually did 2 hours.
I didn't eat anything today, so I am extremely hungry.
All right, well, let's get you out of here then. Welcome back to lastmovieoutpost.com, which is working again. Thank you very much. You can reach us on Twitter at @movieoutpost. He is at Obafil. I'm at Drunken Yoda 1, at Matt Eggy Wags. Unfortunately, is too drunk to join us today. You can reach us on Facebook at Last Movie Outpost and Instagram at Last Movie Outpost. Phil, do you have anything else to say?
I have finally recorded, because I actually got it finished. Hang on, where is it? There we go. I actually got finished and recorded my Biggles script as an overlooked. So I've started editing that. And I'm not saying I had a really boring day at work today because there was nobody in, but I actually wrote about 3/4 of another script which I'm going to start on.
Nice.
If anybody came upstairs, it was immediately, oh yeah, no, I was just checking some details of some stuff coming through. Yeah. Okay, bye. Right.
That wouldn't give for a boring day.
But yeah, so Biggles is on its way.
All right. Well, I might give Dungeons and Dragons a try.
It was entertaining. It's like Guardians. It was entertaining. It's not a masterpiece. There are crappy moments, but overall, I enjoyed it. I would watch it again.
All right. I will give it a try. So I think that's good for one day. Good 2 hours. So,
and thank you to Setlink for joining us, and also thank you for that little tip. It's most appreciated.
Yes, it is. And I hope your time gets better for you. So
Yes, indeed.
Until then, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next stream.